Women in Aviation. Informational text by Patricia and Frederick McKissick. Part 2. For almost 2 years, Coleman worked part-time as a manicurist and as a server in a Chicago chili parlor and saved every penny to finance her trip to France. Meanwhile, she learned to speak French, so when the time came, she'd be able to understand her instructors. In 1921, Coleman made it to France, where she found an instructor who was one of Tony Foker's chief pilots. Foker, the famous aircraft manufacturer, said Coleman was a natural talent. On June 15, 1921, Coleman made history by becoming the first black woman to earn her wings, thus joining the ranks of the handful of American women flyers. Returning to the United States, determined to start a flying school where other African American pilots could be trained, Coleman looked for ways to finance her dream. Coleman gave flying exhibitions and lectured on aviation. She thrilled audiences with daredevil maneuvers, just as Quimby had done before her. Along with racism, Coleman encountered the burden of sexism, but she made believers out of those who doubted her skill. The color of my skin, she said, was a drawback at first. I was a curiosity, but soon the public discovered I could really fly. Then they came to see Brave Bessie, as they called me. The strict rules and regulations that govern aviation today didn't exist during the first 3 decades of flying. For example, it wasn't uncommon for aviators to ignore safety belts and fly without parachutes. One of these simple safety precautions might have saved the lives of both Harriet Quimby and Bessie Coleman. On July morning in 1912, Quimby and a passenger named William P. Willard set out to break an overwater speed record. When Quimby climbed to 5,000 feet, the French-made Blériot monoplane suddenly nosed down. Both Quimby and Willard were thrown from the plane and plunged to their deaths into Boston Harbor. The New York Sun used the opportunity to speak out against women flyers. Miss Quimby is the 5th woman in the world killed while operating an airplane. 3 were students, and their number thus far is 5 too many. The sport is not one for which women are physically qualified. As a rule, they lack strength and presence of mind and the courage to excel as aviators. It is essentially a man's sport and pastime. 14 years later, Bessie Coleman died in a similar accident. With almost enough savings to start her school, Coleman agreed to do an air show in Florida on May Day for the Negro Welfare League of Jacksonville. At 7:30 p.m. the night before, Coleman, accompanied by her publicity agent, William Wills, took her plane up for a test flight. When she reached an altitude of about 5,000 feet, her plane flipped over. Coleman was thrown from the plane and plunged to her death April 30th, 1926. Wills died seconds later when the plane crashed. Once again, critics used the tragedy to assert that neither women nor blacks were mentally or physically able to be good pilots. Women are often penalized by publicity for their every mishap, said Amelia Earhart, the most famous female pilot in aviation history. The result is that such emphasis sometimes directly affects a woman's chances for a flying job, Earhart continued. I had one manufacturer tell me that he couldn't risk hiring women pilots because of the way accidents, even minor ones, became headlines in the newspaper. Although Bessie Coleman died tragically, her plans to open a flight training school for blacks were continued by those she had inspired.